The following is a project of our nonprofit newsroom. Support Midcoast Morning and local community-centered journalism today by signing up to be a monthly sustaining donor at chwy.ca/donate. It doesn't take much money to support local news.
Hello and welcome to Midcoast Morning. I'm Joe Pugh. The O in Nanaimo's downtown sign is getting a new design after several incidents of vandalism. The sign was installed in Maffeo Sutton Park in 2021. The 5-foot letters that spell out Nanaimo are all painted white except for the O, which features a rainbow design made up of 15 colored segments. A release from the city at the time the sign went up said that the colorful O can mean different things to different people. For example, the different colors in the O represent the diversity of the 100,000 plus voices who have shaped and continue to shape Nanaimo. The release also said it represents an inclusive Nanaimo full of opportunity for generations to come. The O has since been vandalized on multiple occasions. Most recently, it was painted entirely white earlier this year. At one point last year, the O was spray painted with the words "No WEF," a reference to the World Economic Forum. The design on the O bears some similarity to a logo for the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, which has driven backlash and fueled conspiracy theories on social media. At a council meeting Monday, city staff recommended a plan that would commission a new, yet-to-be-determined design for the O. We're going to bring you Nanaimo City Council's debate on this issue. Here's Darcy Osborne, Director of Parks, Recreation and Culture with the City of Nanaimo, introducing the issue Monday night.
The Nanaimo sign was installed at Maffeo Sutton Park in April of 2021, and since then has become a very prominent landmark for our city. It was installed as part of a suite of downtown revitalization and public realm improvements identified by City Council in 2019. The sign undergoes seasonal cleaning and full repainting was last done in 2023. In late April of this year, the letter O portion of the sign was vandalized with paint. Staff have worked to remove the paint and have had only moderate success with the letter O now requiring to be repainted. The purpose of this report is to provide Council with options for ongoing repainting of the Nanaimo sign with specific considerations to the letter O. The repainting of the O represents an opportunity to consider the potential for some artistic renewal, as well as addressing operational considerations. The repainting also provides potential to reinforce the city's commitment to public art and inclusivity. The report speaks to the rationale and the process of working with the urban design roster for calls to artists as well as potential artistic applications. The recommendation before you is that Council direct staff to commission a new design for the letter O for the Nanaimo sign at Maffeo Sutton Park through the city's urban design roster for 2025, and direct staff to explore the feasibility of establishing an annual public design call for future years. Tonight, Ms. Davis, Deputy Director of Parks and Natural Areas, and Ms. Breen, Manager of Culture and Events, are here to answer any questions we have on this topic.
Thank you very much. Councillor Armstrong.
Thank you. You know, this obviously was on Facebook a lot, and I monitor that. And there was a lot of people that really would like us to use the waves that we see already in our reports up there, which is really our Nanaimo symbol. Has there been any looking at doing that? Like, first of all, it'd be a lot cheaper. We wouldn't have to go through people vandalizing it because it's accepted, and it's also a good way to brand our city, because if we keep changing things, we keep changing our branding. So I was just wondering if we looked at that option.
Through the chair, we hadn't looked at any particular option here. We thought this would be a good opportunity to bring this forward to Council, knowing the importance of this sign and the way the community feels about it.
Thank you.
Councillor Gesselbrock.
I'd like to put the motion on the floor if it's possible.
I'm going to suggest we have a tiny bit of a discussion first, if that's all right. Is there anyone else who wishes to speak before Councillor Gesselbrock moves his motion? Councillor Thorpe, please.
Thank you very much, Your Worship, and through you, if I may. I think Councillor Armstrong expressed an idea which was in my mind as well. When I read the staff report, this seems to refer only to options for the letter O. And one option is to repaint it the way it has been up to this point, which I will tell you quite frankly I would not support. And then it talks about options for redesigning the letter O. Well, it's a letter O, and I think options are pretty limited. But what I would like us to consider, and maybe staff can make further comment on this, is what about looking at the entire sign? I think repainting in red and white colors of some motif, or as Councillor Armstrong suggested, and I've heard this suggested as well, the blue and white wave colors used in our city logo. I think that would be impressive across the entire sign, not just the one letter. So when it says in the report that the letter O is an iconic feature of our city, I don't think I agree with that. I think the sign is iconic, not the letter by itself. So I just wonder if more thought could be given to a larger scale design of this, or redesign of this landmark. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I'm going to offer a comment, I'll be the most conservative person here tonight. If it ain't bust, don't fix it. I appreciate the work of staff and the recommendations consideration. The diversity O, which is what it represents, is important to me. I tell everyone over and over again, this is a tolerant, accepting, and welcoming community. The only reason this is before us is because we have had, with great respect, and I won't use any other language than is appropriate, some bloody idiots who choose to deface public property. Obviously, many of us assume, based on ridiculous views held by conspiracy theorists, that somehow this council is controlled by or an allyship with the World Economic Forum. I would regard any change to that sign as a concession to the idiots, and I am not prepared to do that under any circumstances. And if I'm the lone vote, I will happily be that lone vote. Now, Councillor Gesselbrock, I see Councillor Manley wants to speak now too, and he's welcome to do so, and then we'll let you move whatever motion you wish to. Thank you.
Can't we just adopt the O into the UN logo, or maybe the World Economic Forum? Like, just go for it? The idea that this is the Sustainable Development Goals, or that the Sustainable Development Goals might be a bad thing. It's not the same number of color swatches as the Sustainable Development Goals, but I question, people who are opposed to this idea that healthcare, affordable food, nutritious food, access to clean water, good jobs, these are all things outlined in the Sustainable Development Goals, and to deface a sign because you oppose those things is a bit bizarre. I'm fine with whatever we do with the Nanaimo sign. It's not a hill I'm going to die on. I do find it appalling, though, that people feel compelled to deface it based on some conspiracy theories. I heard actually that we got $5 million in this city from the World Economic Forum, and I think if we're going to take a bribe, it should be for more than 2 kilometers worth of pipe. So I don't know what staff's doing if that's what we've settled for. Thank you.
Let's hear from Councillor Creel.
Don't believe any of that. Anyway, it's interesting. I read this and I wasn't against the option that staff have suggested partially because it's under $5,000. And I thought, I like that number by comparison to what a whole new sign would cost, even though I like Councillor Thorpe's ideas and Councillor Armstrong's, but I just think we need to be cost conscious. And this is not an old sign. It's not, if it was 15 years, 25 years older, I'd say, okay, it's time for a new sign, but it's certainly done a lot, so I'd be more in favor of supporting the motion that's on the floor, but I know Councillor Gesselbrock has a motion to go forward, so for me it's about cost.
Councillor Armstrong?
That's exactly why I'm opposed to the motion, is because of cost, because every year you're going to have to spend $5,000 to keep changing it, or maybe more if the paint doesn't come through. I just think this is an opportunity to brand our city, and it's non-conflict, like nobody I hear is against it. If we start getting different designs, we could end up right back to where we are again, that somebody doesn't like it, and it's back to changing, fixing, all that kind of stuff. The other option that came up that got a lot of votes too, that I should mention, was putting in the Canadian flag, or the Canadian maple leaf was another option that people were in favor of. But we're always trying to look at marketing ourselves, so why wouldn't we do that? It's free marketing and it's our symbol. So that's just my point. Even in a Nanaimo bar.
Councillor Gesselbrock.
I'd like to move the recommended motion.
Second discussion on this?
So just to speak to it, I actually would like to, I think integrating different ideas is important, and I think Councillor Thorpe had a great idea. I think even what the mayor brought forward about, if we repaint this, we're kind of letting some vandalism happen in our city and then pivoting because of that, and I don't think that's cool either. What I do think is cool is supporting our local artists to come up with the design and put it out there. And I think that's great advertising of the city. It's like we're behind our local artists and we're a creative city, and we're going to display that proudly. Doing the whole Nanaimo sign, I think that would be great. And I think that we do have to be cognizant of costs. Costs are getting higher, and we probably want to start small and build on success. And to the mayor's point about you sort of enabling a vandal, my thought is maybe we first do the O with a local artist, and then we set up some system that the next person that tries to vandalize a sign will know exactly who it is, and it'll be a $10,000 fine. And that's going to get us the money that we can do the whole Nanaimo sign, and that's how it'll work. So we'll have the sign refresh, repainted through the cost recovered from the vandalism. And so every time somebody decides, like, oh, I don't like this because of some conspiracy theory or whatever reason, and they decide to vandal it, great. Thank you for $10,000, because that's what it's going to cost you to vandalize a sign. And you've now enabled a new artist to put forward a design for the sign, and we're being a creative, problem solution-focused city. And that is what I want to express to the broader world. Thank you. Start with the O.
Councillor Hemmons.
Thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to support. I appreciated staff bringing this forward. I think it's a really nice way to tie in a program that already exists. I find the cost of $5,000 quite low. I think it could really promote a local artist and give them a nice little canvas in a central park. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Well, speaking to the motion, the report reads, the Nanaimo sign is presently hand-painted and clear-coated. The last full repainting of the sign was undertaken in 2023 at a cost of $4,097, which is covered by operating budget. So, we put a new design on. I wasn't aware that putting a new design on would be a guarantee against vandals. We have the point of the sign is it says Nanaimo. Is anyone really going to be able to distinguish between a Nanaimo sign that's painted blue and white in accordance with the entrance signs to the city? Is it going to make it more iconic? Is it going to make it cheaper to maintain? If successful, I note, the report says if successful, decals could allow for even more frequent design updates. They could also simply allow for cheaper maintenance on the existing O. It's with respect to Councillor Gesselbrock's suggestion, are we going to install security cameras down there so that we catch the individual? And are we going to work on the assumption that someone who's stupid enough to vandalize a sign has $10,000 to pay a fine? I doubt very much that's going to be the case. With the greatest respect to council, and you can tell when I'm not feeling terribly charitable, I say with the greatest respect, we have an iconic sign that created controversy when it was put up. Some ratepayers locally complained. Now the City of Vancouver is looking at something between $500,000 and $1 million to put a Vancouver sign up. It is an extremely popular tourist attraction. These kinds of city signs around the world are popular. Nothing says Nanaimo more than, with the exception of the Bastion, probably. So, for what it's worth, I'm not prepared to support any change. I will not vote for any motion that sees us change this. If we're going to set up a system as proposed, that it be artistically renewed, etc., put through the local artist register, etc., that's a process. It's going to take half time. It's going to require decisions every year to look at changing the sign. I mean, if you ever want to bureaucratize, no offense to staff, a system to keep a sign painted in a public park, what we are talking about is exactly that. And at a time when we've just sent out tax notices and we've got our first cranky emails from ratepayers, I am not prepared to spend any more money than is necessary to maintain, but as I said at the start of my remarks earlier, ain't busted and it doesn't need fixing. All it needs is a coat of paint on the O, not the rest of the letters. It doesn't, and if decals work better, then we'll go with the decals, and I trust staff to do that. But I'm not prepared to waste public money responding to vandals who I think we can assume come from a certain source or mindset in the faint hope that somehow it's not going to get vandalized as any other public property does from time to time. You are not going to prevent vandalism by changing the color of this. So there's my position fairly clear. Councillor Gesselbrock, looks like you might get the last word. I'm not seeing any other hands here.
I actually just had a question about the decals. So would the idea is that you could, it could be any print that's on it, but you get decals printed up and then basically just like a sticker, put it on.
Through the chair, that's the idea, yes. And it's cheaper than hand painting.
Wow, that's a great idea, even for the artists, that they could, do a decal up and then we could do that. Okay, thank you.
The option 1 is on the floor. All those in favour? Councillors Gesselbrock, Hemmens, Perino, Banley, Eastmere and Brown, and those opposed. Councillors Armstrong, Mayor Krogh, Councillor Thorpe. Motion carries. Good luck, staff.
Debate from a Nanaimo City Council meeting Monday night, where Council voted 6-3 in favor of a plan to commission a new design for the O in the Nanaimo sign at Maffeo Sutton Park. Coming up, we'll debrief that decision with Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krogh.
Midcoast Morning is made possible by the Community Radio Fund of Canada and generous listeners like you. With your support, we can expand Midcoast Morning from 2 to 3 original programs per week to cover local news, current affairs, and arts and culture.
The O in the Nanaimo sign downtown is set for a redesign after another bout of vandalism earlier this year. Earlier on the program, we brought you Nanaimo City Council's discussion on the subject at a meeting Monday night. The following day, I was able to speak with Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krogh about the issue. First of all, do you think it's fair to draw a direct line between vandalism of the O in the Nanaimo sign and conspiracies around the World Economic Forum specifically?
Absolutely, because people aren't damaging other parts of the sign, and the focus has clearly been on the letter O, which some believe is a symbol of the United Nations sustainability agenda, etc. In fact, if one actually looked closely, you would see that they are different colors. The colors were designed to and do represent diversity in our community, which is why I feel so strongly that we should simply retain the existing diversity symbol. It represents the values of the council in general, in my view, the city in general, and it's an important message to anyone visiting Nanaimo that this is a tolerant, accepting, and welcoming community.
Now, Council ultimately voted 6-3 for the staff recommendation of conducting a new design process for the O. And I think it's fair to say that this isn't the first time city policy seems to have been influenced by what I'll call disruptive factors in the community. How do you try and navigate that situation as council?
Oh, look, I think it's becoming increasingly challenges for councils across this country, let alone this province and the island, to deal with people who subscribe to theories which are not generally held or well regarded or indeed backed up by, I believe, the facts of any situation. Allegations around fake news, around the powerful influence of international bodies like the World Economic Forum are grossly exaggerated, but they're repeated, and there is a vociferous and organized element who subscribe to those conspiracy theories. And we just have to, as members of council, elected officials, looking after the public interest, defend what we believe is correct and right and proper and is in the public interest.
At the meeting on Monday, Councillor Paul Manley was joking around on the record about rumors about the World Economic Forum. And I'm just wondering if you can tell me how much you and perhaps other members of council that you're aware of are hearing behind the scenes about this kind of thing.
As someone who is well known for not touching social media, I don't hear it as much as others who participate in social media. But certainly we have had a number of delegations and commentary and the attendance of people who were clearly supportive of these viewpoints who attended council on and off for many months. That seems to have died off. I'd like to think that it is a dissipating force in our community, but one never knows.
Do you have a sense of where this came up from when it started to become an issue?
I would say it's become an issue in the last year plus. Part of it, I suppose, was the emphasis on the upcoming U.S. election. I think may have played a role. Social media in general. It started, I suppose, when the council adopted the donut economic model, which is really, in fairness, had not as much of an impact as one might think or many wish to believe on the city's policies. Our policies are designed to serve the public interest. We may disagree from time to time, but generally speaking, we are trying to look out for the public interest revolving around those things over which we have jurisdiction. Water, sewer, garbage, parks and recreation, arts and culture within the community. We have no influence, particularly apart from advocacy, over housing and healthcare and other things, such as taxation, for instance, corporate or personal, etc. So if council sticks to its knitting and it's in the public interest, trying to create a more tolerant, accepting, and welcoming community that is a good place to raise a family, then I think we're doing our job. Some of those folks believe that clearly we're under the control of some international organization, so that even though Councillor Manley made a joke about it, during question period, someone felt compelled to ask what was the source of this, and Councillor Manley made it pretty clear it was just a joke and some sort of rumor that's out there. So it's sad. It saddens me that people would even consider that something like that might be true, but you know what? You just have to soldier on. That's what public office is all about.
So it's been voted on that we'll go through this process of commissioning a new design for the O. During the meeting, you made your thoughts about that, the idea of doing that pretty clear. Now that the decision has been made, what do you hope comes out of that new design process?
Well, I hope what we'll discover is what I'm asserting and I believe to be true. If you're going to engage in some public contest every year to come up with a new design, or alternatively, a massive revision, not just of the O, but of the whole sign in terms of painting and art, et cetera, I think it's going to be costly. I think it's going to be overly bureaucratized, and it will not serve the public interest in any way, shape, or form. And frankly, given the success of the sign to date, apart from the vandalism, I defy anyone to walk by that sign most hours of the day and not see someone in front of it having their picture taken. It has been a significant success. We put it in a time when it was relatively cheap to do so compared to the $500,000 or $1 million Vancouver is going to be spending on its sign. That council appears to be going ahead with it. So I'm hoping that the report back to council will encourage people to take the same viewpoint that I have taken with respect to the sign as it exists. Having said that, this is a council decision. Council has made its decision. I will not be leading any protests or encouraging people to lobby council on this. We will see what staff comes up with. We will consider the staff report when it comes, and council will make its decision accordingly. And I, as spokesperson for council, will have to speak to it.
Is there anything else you would like to let the public know about this decision, about the sign, or the issues it seems to be a flashpoint for more broadly?
It is a flashpoint for some folks, but I'm satisfied that it's a flashpoint for a very small number of citizens in Nanaimo. I think most people are happy to see the sign. Goodness, when Todd Mappin organized the wonderful infusion day that we celebrated a few weeks ago, we had hundreds of American tourists spending money in our community recognizing the solidarity between the Canadian people and the American people, notwithstanding the performance of the Mad King in the White House. And where did Todd suggest we gather? At Maffeo Sutton Park, in front of the sign for a massive picture. I think that speaks to where most Nanaimoites have their hearts, and that is they like the sign, they appreciate the sign, they bring their friends and relatives when they come to town to see the sign, tourists come to see the sign, have their picture taken. It's a wonderful amenity, and as I say, it speaks to the values that I believe this community really has around being a tolerant, welcoming and accepting community.
Nanaimo Mayor Leonard Krogh speaking about plans to redesign the O in the Nanaimo sign in Maffeo Sutton Park, a decision which follows several acts of vandalism over the past 4 years. Also at Monday's meeting, Council voted 8-1 to ask staff to reevaluate options for the future of Loudon Park by Long Lake. Earlier this year, Council had approved funds for a boathouse and community activity centre in a narrow 5-4 vote. Council later voted to reconsider that decision, following an opposition campaign from community members concerned about the loss of trees in the park, as well as the expected cost of the boathouse project. Monday's meeting featured several delegations from the rowing and kayaking community, as well as one from the group Save Loudon Park. That's our show for the day. Thank you for joining me. I'm Joe Pugh, host and producer of Midcoast Morning. Jesse Woodward is our executive producer, and RB Frew is our technical advisor. You can sign up for CHLY's newsletter at chly.ca/subscribe. Our theme song is First One by local Nanaimo band Waste Management. If you have a story you'd like us to cover, email us at news@chly.ca. That's all for now. I'll talk to you on another Midcoast Morning.
Midcoast Morning would not be possible without the funding of the Community Radio Fund of Canada's Radio Meters program and listeners like you. Midcoast Morning is a project of CHLY's nonprofit newsroom. Support nonprofit journalism in Nanaimo and on the Salish Sea today by becoming a monthly sustaining donor at $5 or more per month. Support the program at chly.ca/donate. If you're already a supporter, record a voice memo telling others where you're listening from and why they too should support our work. After you're done, you can email it to us. Also, share the podcast with your friends. While Meta is blocking Canadian users from sharing news content on their Facebook feeds, you can still share our podcast directly with your friends via Facebook or Instagram Messenger. Finally, this program acknowledges and gives thanks to the Nanaimo First Nation as we broadcast and podcast from their traditional territory. Thanks for listening.